500 students vanished into spreadsheets before anyone saw a classroom. $47 million moved through nonprofits that never taught a lesson. Fentanyl tablets crossed borders stamped with cartoon mascots meant for children. The system approved it all. Earlier this month, a junior DHS analyst sat alone in a windowless room, watching enrollment spikes that defied census math. Her hands shook as routing dashboards lit up. Crypto wallets funneled tuition into overseas corridors, which meant buses rolled past real schools and never stopped. Which meant parents waited at doors that never opened. ICE confirmed the address existed. DEA confirmed the pills were real. The building sat in South Minneapolis, brick, banners, smiling faces printed cheap. A silent breach came before sunrise. Agents slipped through a service door, hallways tight, radios whispering. A storage cage popped. Boxes spilled. Evidence tags multiplied. Inside, backpacks hid tablets laced with fentanyl. Enrollment rosters listed names that didn't match birth records. A supervisor ordered cuffs. A caretaker resisted, then folded. No one spoke. The analyst watched feeds as permits traced back to a single approval node. The gatekeeper never appeared, but signatures echoed everywhere. A zoning variance cleared fire code. A grant release cleared banking alerts. Each click meant another bus route ran beside a playground. Each click meant an ambulance would arrive late. Agents moved stairwells, checked closets, counted beds. 27 minors were escorted out, blankets wrapped tight. Outside, neighbors filmed, confused, angry. Inside, evidence tables filled with ledgers, phones, a stamp press with the school logo. Then the screen changed. ICE detained 2 administrators for questioning. DEA logged the seizure weight. The analyst felt her inbox refresh without sound. A warning flag vanished. Her supervisor avoided her eyes. Later, agents cataloged cash bundles hidden behind whiteboards, serials matching transfers flagged overseas. A parking deck sweep found a drone case and spare batteries, which meant drop routes crossed a nearby elementary pickup line. Radios crackled as cuffs locked on a courier pulled from a stairwell. The analyst felt pressure climb as access logs showed her badge viewed remotely. The gatekeeper's influence pressed closer, subtle, administrative, unstoppable. Outside, a bus idled with no kids aboard, engine running, driver waiting. Parents across the block locked doors early, and emergency calls stacked up as sirens detoured, which meant help arrived slower than fear that night for everyone nearby there. By afternoon, a permit renewal surfaced, already approved, already paid. It referenced the same address. The same smiling banners. The same buses scheduled for tomorrow. The building went dark as agents sealed the doors. Across the street, a real school let out early. Parents rushed. The analyst stared at the original enrollment spike again. One route still ran. The buses never returned to the curb. They idled, then rerouted, carrying nothing but empty seats and questions. 2 days later, the money started walking through City Hall. The junior DHS analyst returned to the same dashboard, eyes burning, coffee untouched. Tuition streams hardened into contracts. $48 million threaded through construction line items tied to zoning approvals around South Minneapolis. Those approvals meant walls went up fast, which meant inspectors stopped asking why classrooms had no windows. The gatekeeper's hand stayed invisible, but the consequences stacked in concrete and steel. DEA followed the paper into a downtown accounting firm tucked above a coffee shop. Agents entered through the lobby while a second team took the service stairs. Radios crackled. A door locked. A shoulder hit it once. Hard drives came out warm. A partner bolted toward the parking deck and met cuffs at the elevator. Evidence tables filled with invoices stamped approved and signed by proxy. No one spoke. ICE ran the names. One nonprofit director had federal grants and a public bio. The analyst recognized the pattern and felt the room tilt. She had flagged the account a week earlier. The alert had been closed without comment. Her access log flickered again. Across town, agents executed a forced entry at a shell office registered to a construction LLC. File cabinets dumped. A safe opened. Cash bundles matched serials from the school seizure. The gatekeeper reacted immediately. A decoy arrest unfolded on the north side, drawing cameras away from the real trail. Then the screen changed. Bank compliance finally broke. One signature sat unmatched, traced to a municipal intermediary with clearance to expedite permits. That clearance meant schools rose beside clinics, which meant emergency vehicles shared lanes with delivery trucks. The analyst imagined sirens stalled at a curb while paperwork stayed clean. DEA detained an accountant for questioning. ICE escorted a courier from a stairwell, wrists bound, phone vibrating with missed calls. Agents moved room to room, photographing wall maps that traced routes near playgrounds and food shelves. Drones sketched coverage arcs that crossed a public library after school hours. Outside, a council annex locked down briefly as agents carried boxes past interns. Neighbors watched from across the street, phones raised. Inside, a printer kept spitting approvals dated tomorrow. The analyst supervisor finally spoke, low and careful. The case had backing. Not names. Just momentum. She nodded and saved a copy to an offline drive, knowing the risk. By nightfall, the downtown office went dark. The accounting firm's sign stayed lit. A single permit remained active in the system, queued. It referenced the same address. Across the street, a school bus turned the corner, empty, engine humming, route alive. The empty bus routes didn't shut down. They multiplied. The analyst saw them stack across the map like veins. The apartment block sat north of downtown, concrete, narrow, windows painted shut. ICE confirmed the lease traced back to the same nonprofit shell. DEA confirmed phone pings clustered there every night. The building stood 3 blocks from a public middle school, which meant dismissal bells rang beside a holding site no one admitted existed. Earlier this week, agents moved before sunrise. A silent breach took the rear service door. Hinges whispered. Radio stayed low. Hallways tightened as boots moved in pairs, counting doors, counting breaths. The analyst watched the feed from a secure room, pulse loud enough to drown the air handler. Inside the first unit, mattresses lined the floor. No posters. No toys. Phones buzzed inside plastic bags taped to the wall. In the stairwell, a runner bolted upward and met 2 agents coming down. Cuffs locked. A second door gave way under a single kick. Evidence tables began filling fast. Burner phones. Biometric wrist trackers. Paper rosters with numbers instead of names. Agents escorted minors out one by one, heads down, wrapped in thermal blankets. 57 were counted before the sun cleared the rooftops. Outside, neighbors stared from balconies, realizing the building they passed every day had never been empty. No one spoke. The gatekeeper reacted without showing a face. A traffic stop ignited across town, pulling patrol units away. A false tip lit social feeds. Inside the apartment block, a drone alarm chirped from a utility closet. Spare batteries sat stacked, charged, which meant surveillance arcs crossed a nearby playground and the school bus loop. Then the screen changed. A detention order came through for a caretaker posing as maintenance. ICE escorted him down the stairwell, hands shaking, eyes fixed on the floor. DEA logged a secondary seizure from the basement, compressed packages hidden behind a breaker panel, fentanyl weight climbing fast. The analyst noticed her clearance banner flicker red, then green. Agents cleared the roof. From above, the city looked ordinary. Sirens threaded traffic. Kids gathered at the school gate 3 blocks away, parents checking watches. The analyst felt the danger sharpen. These routes weren't abstract. They cut through lives on a schedule. By mid-morning, the building was sealed. Yellow tape fluttered. An evidence truck rolled out heavy. Internally, a jurisdiction dispute ignited. Paperwork slowed transfers. The analyst listened as supervisors argued acronyms while minors waited on folding chairs. A final sweep found a wall map marked with arrows and times. One arrow pointed east, beyond the city line. A route still active. The same permit code sat in the corner. As agents locked the last door, a drone battery indicator blinked once, then went dark. Somewhere, another unit was already warming up. The route on the wall didn't stop at the city line. It bent north, toward water. The analyst watched shipping data tighten into a single corridor leading to the port of Duluth. Refrigerated containers. Canadian transit codes. Fish imports cleared faster than medical supplies. That clearance meant trucks rolled straight through, which meant local roads carried more than ice and salt past neighborhoods that never expected federal attention. Last week, ICE and DEA moved before the docks woke up. Fog hung low. Agents split across the terminal, boots echoing on metal grates. One team took the administrative hallway. Another cut through the loading bay, forklifts frozen mid-lift. Radios crackled as a container seal snapped clean. Inside, frozen fish lay stacked and pristine. Behind the second pallet, compressed bricks surfaced, vacuumed tight. Field tests lit up fast. Synthetic opioids. Weight climbed by the ton. Evidence tables filled as dock workers were pulled aside, hands raised, disbelief written plain. No one spoke. Port records showed the container had cleared under a DHS waiver issued months earlier. 2 port officials were escorted from their offices quietly, no cameras, doors closing behind them. One tried to explain the routing algorithm. The analyst already knew it. She had flagged the waiver once. The alert had died. Then the screen changed. A manifest mismatch appeared. One container number didn't exist in the outbound logs. It had arrived, unloaded, and vanished. Agents moved through stairwells to the control room. Screens glowed with schedules that overlapped school dismissal times inland. which meant trucks passed playgrounds during pickup, which meant a breakdown would stall traffic where kids crossed. DEA detained a logistics manager on the dock. Cuffs locked as forklifts restarted under supervision. ICE swept a parked semi in the adjacent lot and found drone launch rails bolted beneath the trailer, batteries still warm. That meant surveillance ran ahead of every shipment. That meant families along the route never saw the risk. The analyst's phone vibrated once. A clearance review notice. No details. Her pulse steadied anyway. She copied the manifest anomaly to a secure drive and watched the cursor blink. By afternoon, the seizure went public. Officials used careful words. Ton seized. Cooperation ongoing. Internally, agents argued jurisdiction again. The missing container stayed missing. A shipping firm with prior DHS waivers remained active, contracts untouched. As dusk settled, the dock lights reflected off the water like nothing had happened. Trucks rolled out light. One heavy unit never showed on the exit camera. Back in Minneapolis, the analyst pulled up the original school address. The same permit code pulsed faintly. The route from the wall map connected cleanly to the port. The water went dark. The system stayed lit. One container was still out there. The school doors had survived audits, protests, and inspections. They didn't survive the warrant. The analyst recognized the addresses immediately. 3 charter school offices. Same network. Same permit code. Same smiling banners that never matched the enrollment data. The injunction warning flashed too late to stop movement. Earlier this month, ICE and DEA hit all 3 locations at once. One team took the front doors. Another cut alarms from the rear. Glass fractured. Locks failed. Agents poured into narrow hallways lined with motivational posters and empty classrooms. Radios crackled as doors opened and boots crossed thresholds that had been protected by paperwork for years. Inside the first office, file rooms emptied fast. Enrollment binders spilled names, dates, numbers that never lined up. A second team forced a records closet and found a false wall. Behind it, hard drives blinked, still warm. Evidence tables filled until there was no space left. No one spoke. At the third site, a principal's office door resisted once, then broke inward. Agents detained 2 administrators, hands shaking, ties crooked. One tried to cite compliance language. Another reached for a phone and stopped when cuffs locked. The analyst watched the feeds, heart tight, as student files scrolled past faces she'd never seen in class photos. Then the screen changed. A legal injunction appeared, time-stamped minutes before entry, attempting to freeze seizures. It came from a county court clerk's office. Not a judge. A clerk. That clearance meant files could disappear, which meant children could be rerouted before anyone counted them again. Agents moved faster. Safes opened. Cash bundles surfaced behind whiteboards, serials matching the downtown accounting raid. DEA logged additional fentanyl tablets hidden in supply. Cabinets, stamped with the same school logo. That meant distribution had already crossed into neighborhoods, which meant overdoses wouldn't trace back cleanly. Outside, parents gathered as news broke. Some cried. Some shouted. Buses that had never carried students sat parked nearby, engines cold. A nearby public school released early. Families rushed pickups as sirens threaded traffic. The analyst felt pressure spike as her clearance banner flickered again. Someone was watching access in real time. She saved copies anyway. The risk felt personal now. ICE escorted a courier from a back stairwell, hood up, wrists bound. DEA questioned a board member in the parking lot, voice low, cameras kept back. Evidence trucks rolled out heavy, suspensions creaking. By evening, the offices were sealed. Signs taped crooked. Inside, desks sat bare. The injunction stalled nothing, but it revealed something worse. The request had originated upstream. As agents cleared the last hallway, a final document printed from a forgotten machine. Permit renewal. Approved. Paid. Active. The analyst stared at the header. Same address. Same route. Same smiling banner waiting to go back up. The doors were broken. The system wasn't. The injunction didn't come from a judge. It came from the space beneath one. The analyst followed the metadata into the courthouse, past marble and silence, into a back office no one filmed. Case routing logs showed manual overrides stamped late at night. That override meant raids slowed, which meant transfers stalled, which meant people stayed where they were never meant to be. 2 days after the school offices were sealed, federal agents entered the courthouse through a side entrance. No lights. No press. A silent breach at the records wing caught a clerk mid-call. Radio stayed low as agents moved down hallways lined with filing cabinets and portraits of retired judges. The building smelled like paper and polish. Inside a locked office, agents opened drawers and found phones wrapped in evidence bags, already prepared. Screens unlocked to dashboards the analyst recognized. Permit queues. Waiver paths. Names reduced to IDs. Evidence tables filled on a conference desk meant for hearings that never happened. No one spoke. ICE escorted a court administrative official out through a stairwell, hands bound, jacket draped over cuffs. DEA questioned a second staffer at a desk, voice steady, pen tapping. The analyst watched remotely, throat tight. She had emailed that office once. A routine request. It had gone unanswered. Then the screen changed. A redaction appeared at the top of the routing tree. One name removed before agents arrived. The gatekeeper hadn't shown a face, but the absence felt deliberate. That redaction meant authority still flowed, which meant future approvals could slide through untouched. Agents found a thumb drive hidden behind a vent. On it, archived orders rerouted inspections away from specific addresses. One reroute pushed a fire check past a hospital-adjacent school zone. Which meant alarms could fail where ambulances queued. Which meant help would come late if it came at all. The analyst's clearance review escalated. A supervisor warned her softly to step back. She nodded and kept copying. Fear settled in her chest, heavy and focused. This wasn't abstract anymore. Her name sat in logs beside the first alert. By afternoon, the courthouse returned to routine. Flags lowered. Clerks typed. Outside, traffic flowed. Inside, agents boxed files and left through the same side door. No announcement followed. Publicly, nothing had happened. Internally, a contractor profile stayed active. Federal. Cleared. Tied to both the port waivers and the school permits. Jurisdiction disputes flared again. No warrant yet. The analyst pulled up the original image that started everything. The smiling banner on the school wall. She overlaid the routing map from the courthouse drive. Lines matched too cleanly. As night fell, a printer somewhere in the building spit out another approval, unattended. The ink was still wet. The clerk was gone. The override remained. One role was still active. The arrest came in daylight, the way they did when silence was no longer an option. After days of sealed doors and quiet detentions, ICE went public with one name. A Minneapolis nonprofit director. Federal grants listed. Awards framed on office walls. Cameras waited this time as agents approached a renovated brick building with a flag out front. The analyst watched from a secure room, knowing this was pressure, not closure. Agents entered through the main doors. No breach needed. The lobby echoed as cuffs locked. DEA followed minutes later with a secondary warrant tied to controlled substances. Evidence carts rolled past reporters carrying ledgers, phones, and encrypted drives. The director kept his eyes forward. The gatekeeper stayed unnamed. No one spoke. DEA confirmed the numbers by afternoon. Multiple tons seized across linked sites. Cash traced through shell accounts and construction contracts. The analyst listened as spokespeople used careful language. Alleged. Ongoing. Cooperation. Outside the frame, agents moved through a warehouse tied to the same grants, forcing a side door, lights snapping on as suspects were detained near stacked crates. Then the screen changed. A federal contractor profile remained active in the system. Cleared. Paid. Connected to the port waivers and courthouse overrides. That clearance meant operations could resume under a different banner, which meant routes stayed warm. Which meant neighborhoods along those routes stayed exposed. ICE escorted 2 additional suspects from a parking deck behind the nonprofit building. Radios crackled as cuffs locked. DEA filled another evidence table with stamped tablets and packaging materials marked for export. A box labeled education supplies split open under a knife. The analyst supervisor leaned in, voice low. This was the visible part. The rest would take time. She nodded, jaw tight. Her clearance review still hadn't closed. Someone wanted her quiet. Across town, a community center locked its doors early. Parents gathered, confused by the headlines. A nearby clinic rerouted ambulances around a street closed for evidence transport. Which meant response times stretched. Which meant fear settled into ordinary places again. Agents questioned the nonprofit director for hours. He answered some things. He didn't answer others. The gatekeeper's influence showed only in what wasn't said. One contractor name never surfaced. One shipping firm stayed untouched. By evening, the arrest footage looped everywhere. Commentators declared progress. Internally, warnings stayed lit. A permit queue refreshed without error. The analyst checked it twice. As evidence trucks rolled away, a single document printed at a remote office tied to the same grant network. Approval granted. Effective immediately. She pulled up the first location again. The school that shouldn't exist. The banner. The route. The contractor ID still green. The arrest had a face. The system didn't. One role was still active, the operation ended the way it always did. With statements. With charts. With a sense of closure that never reached the system itself. After the public arrest, agencies pulled back quietly. Evidence rooms stayed full. Press cycles moved on. Internally, warning dashboards never went dark. The analyst sat where she had started, staring at the first anomaly that triggered everything. The school address. The permit code. Still valid. ICE closed out transfers of the rescued students. 500 minors processed, relocated, counted again. Safe for now. Which meant families slept easier for one night. But the routing algorithms that once hid them remained intact, which meant another group could vanish just as cleanly somewhere else. DEA finalized seizure tallies. Tons logged. Money traced. Yet one financial corridor stayed open under a different label. A federal contractor's clearance remained untouched. That clearance meant inspections could still be redirected, which meant buildings could rise beside clinics and schools without questions. No one spoke. Earlier that week, agents had returned to the apartment block. Doors stayed sealed. Yellow tape sagged. Inside, nothing moved. But on the roof, a drain cover sat misaligned. A drone battery casing rested beneath it, cracked, serial scratched away. Which meant surveillance had shut down manually. Which meant someone knew exactly when to leave. Then the screen changed. A final internal memo circulated. Case status, partially resolved. Outstanding elements under review. No names. No deadlines. The analyst's clearance review closed without comment. Access restored. A quiet warning in itself. Across the city, the nonprofit offices remained empty. Signs peeled. Parents passed without looking. The port resumed normal traffic. Fish trucks rolled north and south. One shipping firm updated its branding. Same routes. New logo. The analyst pulled archived footage from the first raid. The forced door. The backpacks. The stamp press with the school logo. She overlaid the data one last time. The permit that started it all traced forward, branching into future approvals already queued. Automated. Clean. Invisible. Outside her building, a school bus idled at a light, empty, engine humming. A crossing guard waved cars through. Ambulance sirens threaded traffic 2 blocks over, delayed by a lane closure tied to permitted construction. Which meant help arrived later than it should have. The gatekeeper never appeared. No arrest. No confirmation. Just absence where a name should be. But the damage was real. Buildings raided. People detained. Children moved like inventory. As night settled, a printer in a remote municipal office produced a single page. Permit approved. Effective next quarter. The analyst closed the file and looked at the opening image again. The school that shouldn't exist. The doors were gone. The banners were gone, the roll was not.